Hey guys, it's Bro You Whack, and I want to introduce to you Vendetta, the latest hero coming into Overwatch 2. Given the nickname La Lupa, this she-wolf gladiator wields a gigantic sword in an arena to destroy her enemies, but also earn her vengeance for her father, Antonio. That might seem very familiar because that was the exact character that we actually went after in one of the Archives missions back in 2018. And now that she's all grown up, she's gonna use her skills to go after any single person that is seen as a villain, which is basically everybody, which makes her so freaking cool. And for today's video, what I want to do was to break down her hero introduction trailer, try to guess what her hero kit's gonna look like because we don't have any official gameplay as of right now. We will soon enough, and also talk about what the future will hold with the hero, both in game, but also possible lore-wise, her connection with Talon, Blackwatch, with Overwatch, just everyone. But first, let's talk about how La Lupa is probably going to be played in Overwatch, because while this trailer is supposed to be more of like a cinematic trailer that's supposed to introduce the hero, there's a lot of gameplay references to her possible hero kit. The first and obvious is her gigantic sword that I want you to use on me. I mean, what? This sword is going to be a main form of weaponry, damage, protection, cooldown usage, ultimate, everything in her hero kit is going to revolve around the sword, and based on her role, which as of right now we still do not know, is also going to heavily determine on how these cooldowns abilities are going to function. Now, while we don't know if she's going to be a tank, a DPS, and technically a support, I highly doubt she's going to be a support. My guess, just based on all the abilities that we're going to be going over, is that she's going to be our very first melee DPS hero, if you don't count Genji and his sword. Because one of the very first abilities that we see before she even swings the sword is a possible sprint ability. When you realize that Soldier 76 is still one of the only heroes that has a dedicated sprint button, it kind of makes sense why this sword hero might have a sprint ability. If Vendetta is going to be this close combat DPS hero that has very low health, she needs to be able to get into the enemy's face and get out of the enemy's face as quick as possible, and you can't really do that if you're as fast as Cassidy and Bastion. Well, this could just be due to the cinematic making Vendetta look like the gladiator warrior that she is. I would at least hope that in-game there would be some ability that allows you to get aggressive, especially if you're going to be a DPS. If you're going to be a tank, fine, whatever. They don't need that sprint button, but a DPS hero that's going to be close combat, yeah, you're desperately going to need something. The next ability that we see, which I think is going to also correlate to another ability that we see later on, is this sword charge block. Now, a lot of people will say that, oh, this is just like Genji's deflect ability, but I actually think that this would work similar to Doomfist's block ability. You know how whenever Doomfist blocks, it actually allows you to charge up your next Doomfist depending on how much damage you absorb? I think this is going to work very similar, where the more damage that you block with your sword is going to correlate to the amount of damage that you can strike with the sword fire strike ability that she also might have. We see later on in the trailer, Vendetta throws this like black fire strike at the enemy, almost like Reinhardt, and I think this would be a good opportunity to have these two abilities work in tandem with each other, rather than just having a boring block or deflect ability and a boring Reinhardt fire strike 2.0 ability. Then in the middle of the trailer, we finally see Vendetta using her sword the way that God intended it for, and that's just slicing and dicing her enemies. And I'm pretty sure this would just be her primary form of fire. You swing your sword and you do a steady amount of damage. However, this is the big 2-5. I don't think we would just see another Reinhardt hammer swing. So with Vendetta, one thing that we might see, that we kind of see later on in the trailer, is this use of chaining. And what I mean by that is once you swipe at one hero and you swing at another hero, you swing at another hero, you start to chain these heroes together to build up not only your attacking speed, but also your damage output. This is kind of represented with the black and white fire surrounding her sword. She gets more powerful and more aggressive as she kills more. I think this will create a very interesting DPS dynamic because it forces the player to think, okay, do I want to be super aggressive and continue to chain these enemies to build up my attacking speed and my damage output, or do I want to use my block ability, ruin my chain, but protect myself? It would really revert this possible stagnant dilemma that you kind of see with Reinhardt, where you just kind of swing the hammer, swing, 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 but you can get away with that with Reinhardt. One, because he was developed long ago, he's an old hero, but he also has other jobs to do, which is like protecting the team with a shield and charging in, so on and so forth. That could potentially be her passive ability, this ability to chain enemies together to get high DPS output, but that also means that you're putting yourself in danger as Vendetta because, well, you're not blocking and you're having to get even closer to the enemy. Another ability that we could potentially see in her hero kit is when we see Lupa stab the robot in the leg with her sword and allow her to get leverage and leap on top of the robot. We could potentially see something similar to that in Overwatch where you can stab the walls in the map and use that as leverage to be able to mantle yourself over ledges. Not like a wall climb like Genji, Hanzo, and Kiriko, but just like literally using it as like a step ladder almost. But at the very end, we see the potential of 2 ultimates. Now, I'm not saying she's gonna have 2 ultimates, but when I think about it, yo, what if we had a Symmetra situation where you had 2 options, where you can have a sword throw or a sword strike? We see at one point Lupa throw her sword like a dart through the robot, and then for some reason charge up and just absolutely run through the robot. I don't know what's going on here. I don't think that's gonna be part of her hero kit, just being able to run through enemies, but I do think throwing her sword could potentially be one of her ultimates, where anyone that's in the path of the sword will just get eliminated, almost like she's throwing a dart. Or the second ultimate is where you just slash your sword towards the ground, and there's so much energy from the black fire that who's ever in the path of this like Symmetra wall of energy will just get straight up eliminated. Like I kind of like the idea of the second one a lot more, but the first one, that would be really cool too. Ultimately, it's a similar ultimate. Anyone that's in the path of Lupa will just get annihilated, but how she delivers it might be different. Maybe you have 2 options, probably just 1 option, but I do think that will be her ultimate in some way, shape, or form, just being able to eliminate anyone that's in a straight line of her. But those are all the potential abilities that could allude to her possible hero kit in the trailer, and I just really hope that she has some sort of passive where she can chain together hits, because I want there to be a hero that rewards players for getting aggressive in a very smart way, because you can get aggressive, but are you gonna die? Time will tell. But someone that already has died, is her dad. Okay, is that too soon? Is that too soon? Like I mentioned before, Antonio, the gigantic Italian mobster that we see during the Blackwatch mission from the second Archives event in Overwatch 2, is actually the dad, the papa of La Lupa of Vendetta. And that's why Vendetta not only has this yearn for vengeance, but also has this massive skill arsenal of swinging a sword, because she was taught by her papa to, well, kill everyone that's in your path, basically. And I think this whole dynamic is going to create so much lore potential because she's pissed off at Talon because she employed her dad that got him killed. She's pissed off at Blackwatch because Blackwatch got Antonio killed. She's pissed off at Overwatch because they're associated with Blackwatch. She's pissed off at Omnix because everybody hates Omnix. So she's not going to be loyal to anybody. She's going to be loyal to herself. She is going to be a lone wolf, which is why she was given the moniker La Lupa. Lupa in Italian is wolf. You see the connection here? You see, it's just so cool, man! This character is going to be so much fun to play, but now you're probably wondering, okay, but when does Lupa release? Well, of course, she is going to be coming out in Season 20 fully, but you will be able to play La Lupa early on November 26th. She will have a free trial weekend for everyone to play her, so she will be available from November 26th all the way until December 1st. They do this to try to gather data to see if they're going to be overpowered, underpowered before they fully release in the following season. So be sure to come out on November 22nd, especially on my stream where I'm going to be playing her all day. I'm sure there's going to be some drops related to her. It's just going to be a fun time. But until that happens, let me know what you think about La Lupa, aka Vendetta, in the comments down below, and if you're going to be maining her. But until then, I love you guys. Thank you guys for watching more Overwatch 2 videos to come, and bye.